Welcome to the PIARC podcast Global Road Voices. Founded in 1909, PIARC, World Road Association, has been the leading global platform for knowledge exchange on roads and road transport policies. With over 120 member countries, PIARC fosters collaboration and innovation to advance a sustainable future for the road and transport sectors. Visit PIARC.org to access exclusive resources, stay updated on activities, and become a PIARC member to engage with the international road community. Welcome to the PIARC podcast series, where we explore the latest developments in the world of road and road transport. I'm Nadia Lappa, and your host for today's episode. I'm an engineer with Transport Canada, and I'm also seconded part-time to PIARC to help advance the important work of the association. I contribute to a number of initiatives, including work on a very important topic that we're going to dive into today, and that is decarbonization. Before we do, though, I think it's important to take a step back for some of our listeners who might be wondering why decarbonization is such a hot topic. So for over a century, we've built our roads, our vehicles, and our economies around fossil fuels. And it worked until we realized that the side effects included rising global temperatures, extreme weather, and a planet that's not exactly thriving under the weight of our emissions. That's why decarbonization, cutting carbon output, is now a major focus worldwide. At the annual UN climate conferences, the Conference of the Parties, so COP, governments have been committing to bold emission reductions, with many aiming for net zero by the year 2050. So what does that mean? It means balancing the amount of greenhouse gases that we put into the atmosphere with the amount we take out. So ideally, we're not adding any extra. And transport plays a huge role in this. The sector contributes to about 25% of global CO2 emissions, with most of that coming from roads. And that's why policymakers, engineers, and industry leaders are working on new ways to build and maintain infrastructure that supports low-carbon transit and transport. If we don't act now, we're essentially paving the road to climate disaster. But getting to net zero won't be easy, especially in road construction, where emissions come from both the materials we use and the way that we build. So today we're going to tackle and look at a few different things in this realm, and we'll be exploring it with our experts. And so I'd like to introduce you to our guests today. So joining us are two esteemed professionals who are at the forefront of this effort with PIARC, the World Road Association. So we have with us here, we have Fabio Pasquali, the Strategic Theme Coordinator for Decarbonization, and Jan Pettersson, the chair of the Technical Committee 3.5 on Decarbonization of Road Transport. So welcome to the show. We're so happy to have both of you here with us today. So Fabio, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your role as the Strategic Theme Coordinator for Decarbonization and what that entails?
Thanks, Nadia, and good morning to everybody. PIARC is an association whose goal is to understand the drivers of road transport for the benefit of the governments, the civil society, and the users. Its activity is organized through working groups, some 25 working groups called thematic committees, in which road experts, civil servants from national road administrations, employees from private companies, and people from the academia analyze a core topic and compare their experiences, present case studies, and write reports that include recommendations. Well, we all know that decarbonization is a comprehensive topic, and that's why it's important to try and coordinate this activity. So my role is about providing a vision with respect to this process, as well as to facilitate the activities of those groups.
Excellent. It is a very big and important role that you play, and we're so happy to have you. And so Jan, as chair of TC 3.5, Technical Committee 3.5, you do oversee a critical aspect of PIARC's work on decarbonization. Can you share some insights into the role of the committee and as well as its main objectives?
Thank you, Nadia, and hello everyone. I represent one of those many groups that Fabio just talked about, and we focused mostly on decarbonization of road transport with focus on road users. And we know that the roads across the world stands for a large amount of CO2 emissions, and we really need to do our part. And we see now a lot of things is happening within regarding how to decarbonize road transport. But if we are going to fulfill the Paris Agreement, we need to speed up the deployment, I would say. A lot of things is happening, but we need to do more. And I think the TC that I'm leading it. The TC is also represented by a number of people from the academia, from companies, from NRAs, and so on. And we are really now, the focus is really to share all knowledge, to share good practices and learn from peers. So we are focusing on a number of topics, and I think we'll talk more about the different kind of topic later. But the main focus is to see how can we decarbonize the road transport with focus on road users. So we are, for instance, going to look into different kind of technologies regarding static charging, dynamic charging, hydrogen, battery swapping, and so on, and also see if we also can do some analysis regarding also energy production, use the road sections to produce energy also. But that is also a very important thing to deal with.
Well, there is definitely a lot to learn here. As a road user, you think you understand some of the things that are happening out there. You think you have an appreciation for what maybe needs to get done and what people are working on, but I have to be honest, and I'm in this sector, I really don't. So I want to get a better understanding, and I'm sure some of our listeners do too, on what maybe both of you can weigh in. What are some of the bigger challenges that we face globally in achieving net zero emissions? Like Jan, you talked to a few things just now, but if we take a step back and we look at this in the bigger picture, what are some of the bigger challenges we're facing? I don't know if Fabio, you'd like to go first, or Jan, I leave it to you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Nadia. Well, I see two major challenges. First of all, is the scope of the reduction of emissions that is needed to meet the Paris Agreement targets. Slight changes are not enough, and business as usual does not work anymore. So we need to rethink the whole transport sector, which is a real challenge. And the second one is equally important. Decarbonization needs the involvement of different players in different ways. The final outcome is the result of active policies, new behaviors, developments in technology, industrial choices, effective and viable solutions. And in top of the above, cooperation and collaboration between players. And it is very important to understand that each country has a number of tools, a number of players, and all country plays its role in getting to the final result, because it's a collective good, it's a global good. So it's important to understand that, and it's very challenging, especially in this period, we can say.
Okay.
And if I can add, I totally agree with Fabio. I think you said it all, Fabio. I mean, policies and strategies, how to make things happen is so very important. And I think here we have a lot to learn between countries. And also, I mean, we have a number of challenges. I wouldn't say regarding, for instance, regarding technologies, because there are so many technologies. But you also really need to get into what are the pros and cons with different kind of technologies, for instance, regarding charging of vehicles and so on. And then also one big issue is also in many countries you have problem with the net, with the grid, the electric grid. How can you work with electrification? Because electrification is the way forward with, for instance, poor grid. So that's also a challenge. So there are a number of challenges that we face. But of course, cooperation between different kind of organization and so on is very, very important, of course.
So I'm going to deviate just for a second. Something you said, Jan, is intriguing, especially in the context of the work that PIARC does, because PIARC brings together many different member countries to advance its mission. And so, in your particular technical committee, I imagine that you have representatives from a number of different countries, and we're in Canada, so we're sort of like, isolated. Our drivers kind of move within the country, maybe to our neighbors to the south a bit, but like we stay in our country. But I imagine that in Europe, where both of you are situated, that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot more like um, travel between countries, and so it's an interesting, I guess, problem or topic to look at, how the different countries can support each other in their objectives. For example, if you have these patterns of movement from one country to the next, is that something that you consider in your work?
Yes, absolutely. That is something that we, of course, discuss. I mean, different kind of technology can, of course, create cross-border barriers if you don't have good cooperation between countries. I mean, in Europe, we have this alternative fuel regulation that really tries to stipulate so you have a good situation, so you can transport goods cross borders, of course. But I think that's also an issue from many places across the world. So to discuss and analyze once again, pros and cons with technology. That is one part of the work that we are conducting with our TC. But it's so great regarding how PIARC now organize and gather people from all different kind of sectors, from builders, construction, NRAs, consultants, people from ministries, and so on. So I think the dynamic regarding discussions in our TC is very, very interesting and fruitful. So I'm really looking forward to the result when we are also going to present our analysis regarding different kind of policies and strategies between countries.
Excellent. I imagine that'll be very interesting. Okay, I did want to like take almost like a little bit of a step back and allude to some of the work PIARC has done in the past on this topic, and just really quickly touch on a few special projects. One of them in particular was on carbon neutrality. So, to identify the best practices and provide strategic guidance for road administrators who aimed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and align with national net zero targets. So, maybe Fabio, maybe you can give us, an overarching sense about how PIARC is contributing to global efforts in road decarbonization, but also, maybe touch upon some of like the surprising or innovative strategies that the project, how it affected the different countries, some of the results.
Well, the project was a big effort by PIARC in trying and understand all the aspects related to decarbonization. And this included um, topics and players and technologies and behaviors and case uses and so on. It has been presented in the World Road Congress in Prague in October 2023, and it has been the basis for the inclusion of two new thematic committees in a PIARC strategic plan, which is rolled out in a 4-year time frame. And that was an important step. Another one has been we can say the introduction of my position in order to leverage on those new committees and in order to disseminate knowledge. And then PIARC has also decided to be very active in participating to the international fora of discussion and action. And last but not least, PIARC is organizing a number of congresses, and I'm sure we will discuss later on that, but also of seminars in low and medium income countries. It's a part of activity of PIARC, which is very important because on that occasion we compare experiences and we try and understand the spatial needs of those countries who, when we get to decarbonization, have different problems and same harms. I mean, same possible negative effects, but more limited financial resources, as well as some limitations to technology as well. So it's very important, this role of PIARC in trying to bring technology and knowledge more or less to all countries of the world. And talking about decarbonization, it's one of the core efforts of this 4-year term.
Yeah, no, that is excellent. And Jan, like if just to Fabio's point, 2 new technical committees were created as a result of this presentation and this work done in the last strategic cycle. One of them is yours, and I know you've already given us some insight as to how TC 3.5 is advancing global efforts to decarbonize the road sector. So maybe, I don't know if it's possible. I know it's very early days within your technical committee, but maybe if there's any early findings or promising practices that are emerging from some of your initial work, if you're at liberty to share with some of our viewers today, I think that would be interesting.
Well, of course, we have a lot more work to do before we present the results in Vancouver 27, I think it is. But I can already say that we have already seen that there are so many interesting cases across the world where you are testing different kind of technologies. But we also see in a number of countries also they have left the phase regarding testing and now more focused on deployment. And we see that some countries are really in the forefront regarding deployment of technologies. So that we see already. We had a meeting last autumn I think it was in Melbourne, and during that meeting we had very interesting presentation from a number of countries. I mean, China, US, France, Germany, Norway, and so on. And we see a lot of things is happening. And we also see that we need also to do a specific analysis regarding heavy-duty vehicles, because we see the private cars are already being deployed and quite quickly regarding static charging systems also across the world. But we have a specific challenge regarding heavy-duty vehicles. So we are quite a lot focused now to analyze how can deployment of facility to electrify, support electric heavy-duty vehicles. That I think here we have a big challenge and a very interesting part to analyze and follow what's going on across the world. But once again, we see also a lot of good examples how to support electrification of heavy-duty vehicles across the world.
Well, okay. And I think that if we take that topic and we kind of go a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of it, I think there was an additional PIARC special project on electric road systems, which explored the dynamic or the potential of dynamic charging station technologies. And assess technical feasibility, infrastructure needs, and also policy implications. And I'm just wondering if we could maybe look at that a little bit and talk a little bit more about that, Jan. So, because I feel like this is part of the work that you do. So what do you see as the biggest barrier to large-scale deployment of electric road systems? So what can administrations begin to look at in the hopes of addressing it, to have this be to engage a successful outcome?
Well, First of all, I can just mention the special project was during the previous PIARC 4-year cycle, and it was presented in Prague 2023. And that special project focused mostly on the technologies, to analyze the technology. Do they work? And how mature are they? And what are the pros and cons? But we saw at the end of that project that, okay, there are a number of technologies and they are already being tested, and most of the technology actually works. So the work that we are conducting now in the technical committee regarding electrified road system is more about deployment of it. And of course, I mean, there are issues regarding electrified road system. It's a very interesting technologies, but of course, um, it needs to be in good correlation with, for instance, static charging, because electrified road system can be seen as uh, an extra to support static charging. Because there is discussion, of course, static charging, I mean, that's the basis for electrification. But there are challenges, as I said, regarding electrified grid system. For the grid system, there could be also logistic issues. I mean, could we see congestion around charging station? And could electrified road system ease the burden from static charging systems? So electrified road system needs to be analyzed in symbiosis with static charging. And here we have, of course, work and analyze to do. Uh, so there are those kind of discussions that we have in our TC regarding electrified systems, more how to deploy it and how can it work with other technologies for electrification.
So I'm actually very curious about this, personally speaking, as well. But I'm very curious because I as most of our users, we only know what we see and what we're exposed to. So I guess maybe Fabio, if you could help us like better understand what are some of the most promising sustainable practices being explored in this realm? Like what what works out there?
Um, well, let's say from the beginning that we should not only focus on technology and solutions, but also to policies and use cases, because decarbonization encompasses all those aspects. As Jan correctly said, it's not just a matter of a technology that works, but you have to implement it, and the market has to adopt it, and the users have to consider it as a normal practice. And it takes time for all that, and it takes a combined action of different players. But getting to your question, well, the integration of mobility options and the concentration of traffic flows, which is the so-called transit development core topic, is one very popular solution. And another one is the cooperation with the private sector in terms of logistics for heavy vehicle transport, because heavy transport is made by fleets, and the people who manage the logistic enterprises are the core players for that. So you have to test with them, you have to discuss with them the best solutions. You cannot impose them, because they must be part of their daily activity. And then quite promising is the big family of energy production close to the road, along the road or close to the road, in order to satisfy specific local needs. For instance, photovoltaic close to tunnels, in order both to decrease the need of external supply of energy and the dependency on carbon, and also small mm, other, for instance, small wind based plants that also help to create to produce energy. It's a very promising field, and we have seen that it's been implemented by many road agencies. But in top of that, it is very important to link together all these solutions, because the road is a single place, but at the same time, you have to supply the basic services, which is mobility. So you have to introduce a number of additional options based on your goals of reducing the emissions, and it's a complex task. But we are going on that. A lot of interesting experience are being developed worldwide. And also we have the area of restricted access and the urban context, which is a completely different one, but it's also a promising area which we are studying as well.
Well, thank you for that. And just to further this discussion, I will say that as you can see, the global push for decarbonization is accelerating. And the road sector is at the heart of this transformation. So that's why PIARC is hosting its first conference on decarbonization this week in Vienna. And I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. And it's a key milestone in bringing together experts, policymakers, and industry leaders to tackle one of the biggest challenges of our time. And so this conference will be a unique opportunity to discuss the latest research, innovations, and from best practices and construction methods to new policies and technologies, the event will showcase solutions that can help us achieve net zero targets while maintaining safe and efficient transportation networks. So to give us a little bit more insight as to what people can expect from this conference, I'd like to ask our guests here today. So maybe Fabio, you can give us a sense of why this conference is important in the context of the issues that you've mentioned already on decarbonization, and what kind of impact that you hope it will have on the global road sector.
Well, as I said, this is the first conference that PIARC is organizing on decarbonization, and it is in association with a country, Austria, which is very active in this area, both in terms of national policy and specific action by the National Road Agency, which also manages the concessions for the toll-based sections. This is also the first occasion to test what's happening worldwide, because we all have global goals, but at the same time, a core player is changing his views just in those months. So it's very important to understand what may happen in the next future with respect to the goals that have been set. And let's not forget that we are 10 years from COP15 Paris, and close to the beginning of the decade, United Nations decade devoted to sustainable transport. I think that it will be the good occasion to compare viable and effective innovation. And we will leverage on a big number of achievements and results. And the high-level panel will certainly provide solution and will reassess the need of collaboration and the ways to make it real and viable just for the next months and the other years.
Well, I think that there's different ways that people can participate and take in the information. I'll get to that in a second. But I was wondering, Jan, if you could maybe just give us a sense. I know that you're working with your technical committee to develop the content and the program for this conference, or part of it at least. And so I'm wondering if maybe you could give us just quickly an idea as to what types of things, topics specifically people can expect to learn a little bit more about.
Well, I can give you some example, but first I think it counted around 40 different kind of presentation that will be presented in Vienna. But I think you will have example how regarding policies from for instance from Norway, China, Austria, how they work with decarbonization of road sectors. You will also get presentation regarding different kind of technologies, and we talk about static charging, electrified road systems, and so on. And then you will also learn more about how do decarbonization and electrification influence and regarding road construction and road maintenance, because that's also a very important topic for road administrations to decarbonize. So we'll have a number of examples from that sector also. And then lastly, very important regarding what I just mentioned about the challenge regarding the electric grid for supporting charging infrastructure, because there are a number of examples across the world now how to use roads and areas along roads to produce energy. For instance, putting solar panels in the pavement and build windmills along the roads and so on. You will also get some sort of presentations regarding those kind of technologies. So I think it will be a broad spectra regarding how to decarbonize both road transport, but also the roads by themselves also.
Well, I feel like it's all encompassing and really a big mandate to try to take on this topic and cover it in only, I think it's 2 short days. So, but for those who are unable to attend in person, good news, the conference will be accessible to online participants. Um, so, and additionally, the proceedings will be available on the PIARC website after the event. So, this will allow everyone to stay informed and engaged in the global effort towards decarbonization. And I should also add, too, that the special projects are also available on the PIARC website. And we invite you to take a closer look at some of those topics um, whenever it suits you. So just as we kind of wrap up today's discussion, you know, give us a sense, if you could, looking ahead, like what steps need to be taken to accelerate decarbonization efforts? As Fabio mentioned, 2050 is not that far away. And have we made enough strides and what types of things can we do to try to hit some of the targets that we've set for ourselves? Maybe Jan, if you wanna go first.
Well, I want to go back to the need of speed up deployment. And to speed up deployment, you need to have good strategies and policies. And I think here, PIARC can play a role to exchange knowledge regarding strategies and policies regarding how to decarbonize the road transport sector. And of course, different kind of technologies, pros and cons regarding that. That's also a part that PIARC can play to share knowledge about technologies. So I think speed up deployment by supporting with exchange knowledge between countries and peers.
Excellent, thank you. And Fabio, if you have any lasting words for our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. I think that there is a very important point. National road agencies, national authorities, branches of the administration should be better equipped with tools to assess the carbon footprint in all processes involved in the road construction, operation, and maintenance. If you don't know what harms, you cannot prevent it. Mobility is the sum of a number of we can say processes of chains, and the authorities and the government should know very well those chains. There is the private mobility chains, the chain, the commuter chain, the logistic chain, and each of them needs to be re-engineered in light of the aim of reducing carbon emissions. And it's necessary to improve the knowledge throughout the process. The idea is to change from an attitude which is based on understanding users' needs and try to meet them and to serve them, moving from that to setting a goal in terms of reduction of emissions and decide, propose, discuss, agree a policy which is based on that. And I think that this is going to be the basis, and it's also based on the capacity in each country to supply viable and practical and useful solutions. And I think that the road has a big role in that because it's at the core of mobility, and PIARC is covering all those aspects. So if we will succeed in putting all the parts of the puzzle together, I think that we can provide what is certainly going to be useful, not only for us, but also for the future generations, of course.
Well, definitely inspirational. And I think as we look ahead, it's clear that decarbonization is no longer a side conversation. It's a central pillar of how we will plan, build, and operate our road infrastructure. And as you mentioned, Fabio, putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. To that end, I guess, alongside winter service and resilience, decarbonization will form one of the three core themes of the upcoming PIARC Winter Congress next March in Chambéry, France. So this is, of course, a very critical opportunity, again, for the global road community to come together, not just to share knowledge, but to shape the future of a sector that touches every aspect of our lives. And so to keep the momentum going and ensure that sustainability stays at the heart of everything we do, we hope to definitely see you, our listeners and our viewers in Chambéry next winter. So again, thank you, Fabio, and thank you, Jan, for sharing your expertise and your insights. It's clear that the road to decarbonization is complex and critical, but with the right strategies, innovation, and collaboration, we can make meaningful progress. Thank you again for your time. I know our viewers definitely and our listeners definitely appreciated it.
Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you. Until next time, everyone.